Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan, and today I'm going to be starting our first biology/environmental science lecture, and it will be about ecology. It will be about the characteristics of ecosystems, how we define it, and the matter and energy related to it. Now, I kind of wanted to start with a simple example, and I'll take you 10 seconds to observe the image. So, what do we see in this image? Well, first of all, I see birds, foxes, and rabbits. And we also see a bear there eating a fish. And all of the animals that are living on land and spend most of their time there are called terrestrial animals. Well, I also see sharks, fishes, jellyfish, and seaweed. Those are all aquatic organisms because they spend most of their time underwater. Now, we also need to take notice of the non-living things in here. For example, the mountain in the background, the clouds, the ocean floor and the soil, those are all non-living components of an ecosystem. And what this is, it's a happy ecosystem. We've basically characterized this ecosystem by describing its living and non-living parts. Now, before I go deeper into ecosystems, let's talk about how we organize biology and where an ecosystem falls into play. Now, an ecosystem is an area that includes both living organisms and its non-living parts. There are many different interactions and systems at play in an ecosystem, and it could be anywhere from a forest, a lake, a woodland, or a marsh. Now, one thing that is important about ecosystems is that it includes the non-living parts. That's what makes it very special, because when we go simpler, when we go more basic into communities, we exclude the non-living parts. Now we're only talking about the living organisms. Now there are still a lot of several interactions that you can see in a community, such as a bear eating a fish, a bird using a tree as nesting grounds, or, the foxes eating the rabbits. Now, if we go even more simpler to that, we can go to a population, which is a group of organisms or a family of only one species. So you can have a population of rabbits, as you can see here on the right, but you cannot have a population of foxes and rabbits. That doesn't make sense. You can have a population of bears, you can have a population of fish, or you can have a population of oak trees, but it can only be one species. Now, the next level is organism. And an organism is literally just a single living thing. It's a single individual of a species. So as you can see here on the right, this single bear would be considered an organism. But in an organism, there are many different things working together to keep you functioning, to keep you a living thing. And we call these organs, which is basically a core complex part of yourself that has a specific function. For example, your brain sends nervous signals throughout your body, your heart pumps blood, etc. Now, your organ is made up of even simpler things called tissues, which are kind of like the building blocks. They're also used as tools all throughout your body. For example, connective tissues and boundary tissues. Connective tissues kind of served as glue in your body and holding it together. Now, if we go even more basic, and in fact, this is the most basic unit of life, we can go down to cells. And anything smaller or simpler than that is not considered life at all. But for our purposes, ecology only looks at the population level and above, so we're not actually going to look at all this biochemistry that's happening at this simpler level, but we're going to be looking at it in a broader sense. Now, how do we characterize an ecosystem? Remember, as I've said, an ecosystem consists of living and non-living parts. And non-living parts we called abiotic factors. And living or once living, for example, a dead branch would still be once living. We call this a biotic factor. Now, as we can see in these two images, a cloud is just a mass of air and water vapor. So that would be an abiotic factor. But a tree would be a biotic factor since it's living. Okay? Now, one of the most important characteristics of an organism in an ecosystem and much of how it plays into its role into the community is how it obtains energy. How we harvest energy is so important and is very important in describing ecosystems as well. Now, before I go on to that, let me talk about the difference between organic and inorganic matter. Organic matter is found in living things only. It is carbon containing. It's very rich in CH bonds that are very important in energy, and it's the bulk of an organism. I like to think about it as the rich building material of different organisms. And when I say it's found in living matter, technically, when something dies, that's still organic matter, but it is derived from something that has been alive before. Now, this could include anything from carbs, proteins, and fats. They're usually complex, very complex molecules with a bunch of carbon. Now, for inorganic, that's more of these simple molecules that you found everywhere around you. It's found in the soil, water is a mineral, and in air. For example, there could be different types of salts. There could be magnesium, there could be potassium, you know, a lot of things that you can find in your like vitamin gums and the ingredients list that's probably inorganic. And the thing is, inorganic that's widely available to the world in the world around us, while organic is something that we need to build ourselves, so it's very rare. But inorganic, it's all around us. So one of the strategies that organisms kind of have to go about is converting inorganic matter into organic matter. Now, the first type of organism that we're going to talk about are producers. A producer is an organism that produces food on its own. Most of them are plants, and they go through a process called photosynthesis. Photo means light and synthesis means make, so it literally means making energy from light. It harvests the sun's energy, it takes in water and carbon dioxide, which are inorganic, and use it to make complex, rich sugars. Now, this is a very important idea, turning simple and inorganic material into complex and organic material. Now, these sugars are burned for energy and creation. And all of us, all living things need sugars to burn so that we can get energy and with that we can create different biomolecules. This is a very important step. Producers have a very important step. They are the foundation of the ecosystem. And what they do is they transfer outside energy from the sun and use that to build living matter. Now, consumers obtain energy a little differently. Instead of making their own energy, they eat other organisms. The first step are herbivores. Herbivores are primary consumers because they eat producers. This can include rabbits, squirrels, or deer, or maybe this grasshopper on the right. They just eat plants. In fact, some of us are herbivores ourselves. If you're vegan, then you are a herbivore. Now, secondary consumers are those that eat herbivores, that eat primary consumers. So this can include foxes, wolves, and hawks. You can kind of think of them as meat-eating and predators, as you can see this bird on the right. Now, one important idea to point out here is that different strategies for obtaining energy cause different ways of living. Why? Well, producers, they need to harvest the sun's energy, so they have to stay in place. So that's why people don't think it's living, even though it's really living, because it doesn't move at all. It needs to stay there to get as much sun as possible, and it grows up, and up until it can get as much light as it can. However, we're consumers. We eat other organisms to get energy, so we have to constantly run around, find different resources. Obviously, humans kind of hack the system, but if you can think about a wolf, it's always on the hunt, so it basically has like a mobile life instead of a producer where it just stays in place. Now, our last discussion will be about decomposers and microorganisms. Decomposers, unlike primary consumers and producers, they get their energy by decomposing dead, complex organic material, such as fallen trees, dead organisms, wood, and even like feces. This can include anything from like bacteria, microorganisms that you can't see, to fungi, to worms, and they kind of recycle everything back for plants to use. They secrete these protein destroyer machines called enzymes to digest and break down that complex organic material. They absorb the energy to function and survive, and they also return some of the nutrients back to the producers. Now, this is the kind of the reverse of photosynthesis. It takes something very complex like organic material and turns it into more simple inorganic elements such as phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, or nitrates. And plants are actually able to absorb these simple substances from nutrient-rich soil. So that's why people say that, mushrooms are good for the environment, worms are good for the environment, because they can actually provide those nutrients to the soil instead of having it lay there being complex material that plants can't readily absorb. Now, I kind of just wanted to end it here before you guys get bored, but I kind of want to linger on the idea of cycling. We saw that living matter can be processed and brought from a producer to a consumer and higher up. But when a consumer dies, we can return this back to the environment through decomposition. So I kind of just want to linger on the idea